All right, man. This is you are live, man. I ain't been on here in a while, man. I'm kind of happy to be back on the camera again, doing a little reaction. We're gonna talk about a bad boy today. Um, I hope y'all can hear this. I destroyed my stuff yesterday. I tell you, I can't win for losing. I was back there trying to stretch a wire just a tenth too far, and it collapsed my extra monitor. Cracked it, tore the whole thing to pieces. I got to go to Best Buy tomorrow and get a whole new extra monitor. I mean, I'm spending gobs of money in this room. Ooh, I need some subscribers bad, but this should be enjoyable. And this was one of the worst battles we ever had. I'll give a little summary of what it looked like in a second. I'm just chatting a minute. But yeah, that happened. I got my camera mount and I'm not really digging it. It's too damn high. Yeah, I know. I'm having to look up. I'm gonna have to see if I can adjust it. I'm gonna have to take it apart. One of the legs off. So I don't know. I don't what keen on that being that high when I'm down here. Oh, I don't know on that either. But boy, it is what it is. But I'm gonna get this started. We'll go through it and see how it goes, man. He got the Medal of Honor for this, and he deserved it. Oh man, I'm sorry, yo. But yeah, this old Clint, been his staff sergeant, Clint Lemon, where he retired as. Yeah, he's a fighter, boy. But yeah, what Cop Keating was like a little hole just surrounded 360 in mountain, the whole thing. So when you was in top of the mountain, the whole base down there just looked like a tiny little deal. Like you could shoot one RPG and blow the whole deal up. And that's basically what they did. So they did it with recoilless rifles, RPG, everything right off the bat in the morning. About 4:30 in the morning, they started it off. Damn, my voice is breaking up. But here we go. I'm gonna let him talk a minute. What the fuck? Why ain't it playing on the thing here? What done happened? Yeah. In my extra monitor where I host and control that is broke. Man, hold on, guys. I'm gonna see if I can bring him back up or something.
Mental rehearsal
I don't know what that was. I was
has
messing
helped me
around. I guess
to
I'll leave it alone.
face things.
Boy,
How many deployments did you do to Iraq and Afghanistan?
I had done 2 deployments to Iraq and one to Afghanistan. Like I said, my first deployment was 2004 to 2005. My second deployment to Iraq was 2006 to 2008. And then my Afghanistan deployment was 2009 to 10.
Did you know much about Afghanistan before you got there?
We had truly lucked out in my platoon because Sergeant Kirk came to us, I think about 6 months before we deployed. Sergeant Kirk had just been stationed in that exact same area of Nuristan, um, the Fob Bostic area, on his last deployment. And I knew Afghanistan was.
Yeah, sorry, save me for a second. It's not New York, but we're trying.
Really?
Even the word Nuristan, suggests like some dark, nasty place. Oh my God. So you're saying Sergeant Kirk had some experience?
Yeah, Sergeant Kirk had just got back from his last deployment from that exact area, and I'd been to Iraq twice.
You tell old boy here, man, he don't like discussing this. He ain't no limelight guy. He lives way up in Montana. Worked out in the oil fields, I believe. Yeah. He gave that Medal of Honor to his daughter. She played with it. I know Dakota, or was that Dakota Meyer? Probably both. Dakota didn't care nothing about it. But yeah, I think his daughter plays with his too. He don't care nothing about that. MO8. That's a prestigious game to be in. That's a heck of a crew. There ain't many of them. Really, when you think about it.
When I was in Iraq, I started actually doing more reading and studying than I ever did in
I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to see what the hell he wants.
high school. So I had a pretty good concept of the history of Iraq and the U.S. relations with that area. But Afghanistan was one of those, never really put too much thought into that that part of the world. But to have Sergeant Kirk with us, he really gave us. You sat through the briefings and you heard about the intel reports, and you got shown the PowerPoint slide presentations and this and that. But to have Sergeant Kirk, that firsthand account, that direct experience that was he had already went through for the last year prior to coming to us in the exact same spot we were going back, really helped us adapt our platoon training to getting guys used to hiking up and down mountains and, angle fire and making sure that for our vehicles, our crew served weapons were modified to mount so you could go straight vertical with it. And just the way the locals interacted with you, having Kirk telling us about how in that part of Afghanistan they were very tribal, and you can't just walk into a village and think you're gonna get any sort of a welcome there unless they want you there. Um, like I said, really gave us a leg up when we finally hit ground and put boots on the ground up there. What he had been telling us, we could put it into direct practical use right off the bat.
Did he have pictures?
He didn't have pictures that he was showing us there um, at the SNAs prior to going. I know he had pictures, but it was one of those, that was his pictures,
Yeah.
for him and his experience.
Right. Is this Len? I'm wondering, are they vacuuming next door or something? Is that sound, or is that? I mean, it seems kind of consistent. So
that's the noise that we were trying to get rid of earlier. Yeah, it's just
steady. It's fine.
It's just
Okay.
steady, and
Okay.
I think we'd be able to get rid of
It's
it. Get it.
workable. Yeah. That's fine.
We will get some room tone.
So talk to me about arriving at Command Outpost Keating and what your impressions were, what it looked like. Just give me that.
When we first arrived, I said we'd gotten the briefings. We'd been.
I'm going to ask you to include that Keating.
Okay. When we first arrived at COP Keating, like I said, we'd gotten all the briefings about what kind of an area it was, what kind of a position it was. But it wasn't until, like I said, that first night we got there to COP Keating on the Chinook, and got off the bird that night. We were met by the unit we were replacing that kind of got us off the LZ and took us up into the camp. And you're trying to look around with your night vision to try and get a sense of where you were. Kind of understood that, okay, this was just as crappy as they talked about in the mission briefs and the intel reports. But it wasn't until that next morning when the sun came up, walked outside, and just remember just looking straight up in 4 different directions and just thinking, what the hell? Who would put this thing here? When you read the military doctrine of defensible positions, this was the exact opposite. We were all the way in the bottom of a valley. There was high ground all around us. Our living conditions and the whole setup of the outpost was very primitive. There was a lot of talk about closing it down or keeping it going. And so as far as logistics,
What up next, guy? Sorry, I was gone a minute. Guess he's getting them to the deal now. Hopefully.
supplies,
This is actually a long one.
they're halfway on the fence, so they didn't quite want to send you what you really needed, but they didn't want to just give you nothing. So a lot of times when you'd request extra wire or sandbags, you'd only get about 1/3 of what you needed. But what was really more amazing was, when the soldiers got there, because myself, the platoon sergeant Guerrero, and Lieutenant Bunderman, we were the first 3 there out of my platoon for the leader's recon and kind of the handover with the unit we were replacing. But when our soldiers started showing up, I mean, you could see it in their face too, that they knew this was a pretty crappy spot. But you're just so amazed that they didn't sit there and bitch about it. They didn't sit there and, hack on, well, why the hell are we here? Why the heck, who would do this to us? They looked at it and they made the best of a really crappy situation. And they just, with all the grit in the world, understood they had a job to do. And they understood that, we're the soldiers on the ground. We don't make the decisions on where we get put. We get put there and we make the best out of bad stuff. And there's nothing more inspiring than to see that firsthand from young kids, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that could easily be, at a kegger party in college at that point in their life if they wanted to, but they decided to serve their country, and they decided to go to a spot not of their choosing, but because out of service. They were going to go there with their brothers. They were going to make the best of a situation.
And did your mission involve connecting supposedly with the locals, and how was that really happening? Talk to me about, what was possible, what was really happening when you were there.
Our mission out of COP Keating was to maintain stability in the region where we're at.
Nothing. Not nothing. Would have never been there.
Problem was we were just underpowered. We didn't have the troop strength to be able to pull our own security and then push out very far with the maneuvering element. Typically, most of the time, you're only pushing out of the wire with about 8 to 10 U.S. forces. So you knew if you got in trouble, you only had about 8 to 10 guys that were going to come help you. um, and
Huh.
that really limited our battle space on how far we could push, which then in turn limited how much interaction we could do with the locals. We had the village Aramul said right outside of our gate, and we had, you know, some pretty good interaction with them, but it was also one of those, the Nuristan province of Afghanistan was unfortunately one of those areas that the main government of Afghanistan didn't really give two hoots.
I'm gonna skip through some of this stuff, but I mean, they would agitate these guys. They would pop up out of the mountains and pop shot at them, just pap pap, and then disappear. And they was doing that to see their reaction, what they would do, and this and that. You know, immediately the mortar pit gets up, the gun truck 50 cal gets going, uh, the saw guys get to work. So they was looking at all the things that they need to hit. So they was studying them for months just by pop shotting and just, you know, just messing with them just to see what they do and how they do it. But then when it popped off, it was bad.
About. The only reason they wanted to keep their name on it was, and we talked about clearing out the village Aramul and having straight direct shots into our western perimeter, um, and then being able to run straight down the lock through the front gate. Um, and when the battle kicked off, that's exactly what they did. They did everything we talked about, how we would do it. But it was good to sit there and pick the brain of your guys and kind of get everyone involved, especially the team leaders and stuff, and get them seeing what our vulnerabilities were, and to get them thinking about, well, if something ever did happen, what could we do to kind of increase our chances? Um,
Mhm.
like I said, it's taking one of those crappy situations and just making the best out of it. Um, like I said, there's nothing greater to watch than that, than taking a challenge and just throwing it on your shoulder and not even having doubt in your mind that, hey, we can make good stuff still happen.
Yeah.
No Clint. That's a bad boy right there, boy.
So talk to me about the
He's a
sort of
good looking man too, man. And
on
no,
the
I'm not
morning at
gay.
the time of the attack. What were the numbers
I'm just
in
comfortable
terms
as
of
a
your troops
man.
and what you projected or saw or was counted coming at you from the enemy?
That morning, October 3rd, when the attack kicked off, I mean, we were already in
My
the country for
birthday's
3 months. We'd already
it's
started doing.
it's so crazy, man. My birthday's October 6th, and this happened October 3rd. If you look back in the combat and the battle and just ticks in general and all that, October, man, is one of the most fightingest ass months there is. I mean, in October, November, and all, they just do get the hell out, boy. They just, the weather's good, and they just want to come out and fight. And they do, boy. Then the Afghans, they just come out and start shooting hit. Bop, 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 bop. I love it. I guess it's just good weather or something. But October, boy, is a bad. You gonna get hit in October somewhere.
Our R&R leave for our guys. And when you started the rest and relaxation cycle, I mean, you were
Uh,
losing out of one platoon 4 guys at a time for up to a month. And in a 21-man platoon, when you lose 4 guys for a month, that's a big number. Um,
I pulled
total that
strong, boy.
day, we had
Ah,
about 52. Um, had 2 Latvian soldiers and 50 American soldiers. We had I want to say about 30 Afghan army soldiers on the eastern side. But when it first kicked off, they kind of found other places to be. So right off the bat, our whole eastern flank was.
them Afghan soldiers ain't worth a shit. You can't depend on them at all. Now the faithful ones, Oh, they're stomped down. But most of them, they just intel. Um, I'm finna have to leave again for a second, too, guys. I'm sorry.
Totally exposed. Um, when the first rounds came in, like I said, I was still sleeping at the time, at 6 in the morning. And as soon as you heard those rounds come in, we'd gotten attacked on a pretty regular basis. And you kind of got used to hearing the incoming normally around that time in the morning. But this time you just knew it was, a whole different ball game. Remember the first time after I threw my gear on, turned my radio on, and ran out to where Specialist Copus was on the Humvee, just outside our talk on the eastern end. I remember seeing Copus up on the gun, just going to town, calling out targets, and I'm hearing Sergeant Gallegos on the western flank. He's talking to the platoon leader in the Tactical Operations Center, and he's calling out targets. And you're just hearing explosion after explosion and bullets whizzing by, and two soldiers, uh, Danley and Jones, that was out there with Copus, and they had a machine gun up to help cover Copus, but they had no cover themselves to really protect them. I remember telling those boys to get their butts back inside, um, to find a little better cover. And it just seemed everywhere you're looking up in the mountains, you were seeing movement. Everywhere you're walking or dodging, I should say, on the COP. I mean, you were having rounds just every which way coming in at you. And like I said, they were hitting us with the indirect fires, the mortars, and the RPGs. And I mean, explosions were just constant, almost like a drum solo, just one right after another. Um, and it was one of those kind of things that muscle memory started taking over. Um, and I knew we had the guys on their perimeter doing everything in their power to beat them back off, and they were just doing their job. And I was like, well, now it's got to do mine. I don't want to let any of those guys down. They're right there in the heart of the fight. What can we do to support them? And it kept going back and forth with Gallegos and Lieutenant Bunderman about trying to get close air support in and trying to get the artillery in. And they, like I said, pinned our mortars down right away. O.P. Fritchie, that set just on the mountaintop to the south of us, they had attacked them at the exact same time. So O.P. Fritchie was, they had their hands full with their fight up top, and they couldn't support us. So the first two Apaches came in, and the enemy had put anti-aircraft guns up on the mountain waiting for the close air support. So you knew these weren't your spray and pray typical, what a lot of people think, just hill fighting yahoos. These guys were very well trained, very well organized. In hindsight, we knew they had been probing us for months on those little attacks to see where our kind of soft spots in the defense was. And you knew they were coming at you in something they believed, that they weren't just going to sit there and if you gained fire superiority, they were going to break contact and leave. These guys were committed to totally taking us all.
They set it off, didn't they? What do you say? 5, 6 in the morning. The Corps, rifles, RPG, PKM, probably mortar, everything they had, boy. They just slung it. And that day, like you said, they were ready to fight, boy. And they got in that wire, too.
the way out. Um, but at a certain point, time stood still, and then time just slipped on by without notice. And certain things just,
Got way up
it seemed like it took forever to do something. On the same token, it didn't seem like it took any time, because a lot of times when I'd be running back and forth, getting reports from the perimeters and heading out to Copus's position. I just kind of would show up there. Don't know how I'd get there. He just kind of showed up, and it's like, oh, I just ran all the way from there. Didn't get shot yet. That's pretty good. So it was just kind of interesting to see that. I don't know if you'd call it a defense mechanism in your brain kind of blocking things out or what.
Well, you had some special training in forward reconnaissance and, and leadership, training. Does that kind of training play into moments like this, or
a lot of the anti-armors leaders school I went to, the scout leaders course I went to, that's all good base material to build experience on. But really, I think the best I had for training was the previous 2 deployments. Having that actual, on the ground, being in firefights before. That was it's one of the things I always kind of like doing with the new guys in country, to try and explain to them what the difference of being shot at is and being shot at is. There's close and then there's close. And to kind of see them for the first time have a round come by and, was that at us? And I was like, oh no, that was at us, but that wasn't at us. And then a little while later, another one come by, and then you see the look in their face, and I'm like, that's at us.
Accurate.
And I'm a firm believer that you can do all the training you want, and it'll build a good base for you back stateside or wherever your training area is. But it's really that on the ground experience that you can't simulate. That really made it a little more familiar to be in that situation and to understand kind of what was really in that Humvee, and had basically exhausted all their ammunition. They were just sitting there.
Them guys in that Humvee, man, they was all, I don't know, they was probably 8 to 10 of them stacked in there. And they just got shredded, man. And I don't know if all of them made it. A couple of them might have. I think some of them did make it out, but they got hammered, man. They exhausted all their ammo, and then just had to button up in that Humvee and sit there. I was like, oh my God. The Outpost, man, that's a great movie. It really is. Like, it's not one that's advertised, but it's a good movie. It really is.
They're just taking a beating. And I went into the barracks and I grabbed Specialist Gregory, and we tried to sneak up and around with a machine gun to give him support. Started engaging with the machine gun, and shortly thereafter, the enemy had flanked us, came through the front gate, and fired the RPG into the generator we were using as cover. Had to displace back after that. And it was one of those, if we don't get up to Gallegos or get them out of there, they ain't going to make it. And so when Sergeant Hart came into the barracks,
I want to stay for a second with this first phase, and you and your
Specialist Gabe.
Yeah.
Ready?
So, were you going by the Shura building? What was your route back towards the, and where did you, talk to me about what you had a machine gun, right? And talk to me about what was happening around you.
We were, like I said, at that point, I was getting reports in from Gallegos that their 50 cal had been disabled, that they were almost out of ammunition. They were just taking an overwhelming volume of fire. And I was bouncing back and forth between the aid station where Sergeant Kirk was getting worked on and Specialist Copus, who had basically at that point, the only gun left in the fight, guarding our eastern flank. So I came into the barracks to assess who we still had and what we still had. And seen Gregory sitting there, and he had his Mark 48 machine gun, and a couple belts of ammunition. I asked him, he's like, "Hey, come with me."
I mean, this went on all day. I mean, start from that 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. It went on all day. All day at shooting, so they were completely dry on ammo.
I asked him, "Is that all the ammo you had?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm only down to about 200 rounds." And me kind of being the selfish guy I am, and
100 rounds. Woo.
kind of a little better shot than Gregory is with the machine
Man.
gun, I took the machine gun from him and told him to be my assistant gunner to feed me the bullets. So we came out of our barracks kind of to the eastern exit.
Looks like somebody's in here. Hey, how you doing? You can write a comment if you want to. This is Clint Romer. It's about the Battle of COP Keating. I figured I'd talk about a positive guy in the military. He's a bad boy, though. One of the worst fights we ever had over there, the Battle of COP Keating.
And we snuck around the side of our barracks and up the little alley where we had a little local mosque for some of the locals that worked on the outpost, where they could attend their services. But it was just a kind of a flimsy wooden structure. Was able to sneak around that, and the way our barracks was set up with some of the HESCOs and the ditching, the drainage ditch, we were then able to get behind the mosque, follow the ditch, and then come up around where our generator set, a 60K generator. From that position, we could open up and see the whole western side. Looking over the top of Gallegos, we could see the mortar pit. We could see down to the Shura building, but we didn't have a good enough angle to see through the front gate. And honestly, at that time, I did not know that the front gate, the Shura, had already been overran. That the forces on there
They in there.
had to displace back.
Them son of bitches got in there, man. Oh, my language. They got in the gate. He goes fighting these guys, I mean, within 10 and 15 feet.
Because they couldn't hold the ground anymore. But looking into the village Armol directly across
That's
the west,
crazy.
where Gallegos and the 5 other guys there set the machine gun up and started looking in the mountains, and you could just see guys all over, guys set up in machine gun nest positions, and the muzzle flashes and the snipers coming out of the Moss Tower and the village Armol. So I keyed the net and started talking to Gallegos. Said, "Hey, I've been able to sneak over here. Me and Greg got a machine gun. Got about 200 rounds." Told him I'm just going to start dumping. Going to try and put enough suppressive fire down, and if you guys can make your move, hey, come back here. Gallegos said, "Okay." Started engaging. Got about the first 100 rounds out. Was doing a change. Gregory's loading me another belt. The entire time, Gallegos is calling back, and it's like you can't bring enough firepower. It's like there's just too many of them. We can't move. You just can't. You can't suppress them all at once.
Oh, they
Calling
left.
them back and tell them, "Look, if you
People
can
so
move it all,
shy.
I'm trying to keep them
Shy
down,
little
but if you can
people.
move it all, hey, try and displace." And it just kind of conversation kept going back and forth, on the radio, on the gun, and then I said it was one of those things I tried to teach my guys when you're in a firefight. You never want to put the blinders on. You never want to get the narrow vision. But that's what I was doing, as I was looking directly to the west, up in the switchbacks, and going from target to target. The enemy was able to flank around and come through the front gate on us, and set up an RPG and fired it right into the generator we were using. And
That's gotta be one horrible feeling. to look back and see the enemy coming running through your front gate with all their stuff. And they got plenty of ammo. They were ready for this day. And RPGs, rockets, and all that crap. So,
And luckily, it was a pretty stout generator because it took the majority of the blast. Blew me over onto Gregory. I remember looking at him and picking him up after I got off him and giving him a quick pat down and asking him if he was okay. And he said, "Yep, I think I'm good." So I told him, "Hey, just take off running. I'll cover you." I called Gallegos back and I'm like, "Hey, brother, I can't hold this position anymore. They got me zeroed in. I'm almost out of ammo." Said something to the effect of, "We'll try and regroup and come back at you." Gallegos came back. He said, "Well, we'll be here waiting." Gregory was able to displace back. I basically used up the rest of the ammunition. Was able to make it back and handed the machine gun back over to Gregory. That's when Sergeant Rasmussen came up to me and he looked at me and he asked if I was all right. I told him, "Yeah, I think I'm fine. I'm good." And he looks down at my arm and he's like, "Dude, you've got a hole in your arm." I look and it's like, "Yep." Crap.
yeah.
I move my hand and I'm like, "Well, I can still walk, talk, and shoot. I'm still good." But he grabs my pressure dressing out of my medical bag and my medical pouch and he throws it on my forearm and stops.
That boy adrenaline pumping so hard, I don't even know who you got. Hell, I can move and shoot and talk. I can go.
Bleeding and gets it bandaged up. And I go back into the aid station, trying to get an assessment on Kirk. And I'm back in the barracks trying to figure out who we still have left, how our ammo situation's looking. Go into the talk and go see my PL to figure out what the status of the close air support is. And by then, I'm finally noticing that I can't feel my hand anymore, losing movement in it. As I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my platoon leader, I keep looking down and I keep trying to get my hand to move. I'm thinking the worst. And First Sergeant Burton comes over and says, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I got hit in the arm." And I was like, "I thought I was good, but I'm starting to lose feeling in it. I don't know what's going on." So First Sergeant Burton looks at it and he starts unwrapping the dressing and he said, Who the hell put this on you?" I said, "Well, Raz did." And he said, "Was he putting a tourniquet on you? Because he cinched this thing down so tight." When he finally, after he got a few of the wraps off, I could finally feel the blood start coming back down to my hand and could start moving it again. First Sergeant kind of readjusted it with not quite so much pressure on me. Then I realized, Gallegos was still out there, and went back into our barracks. And I remember seeing Sergeant Stanley and Sergeant Hart and they're going back and forth about something. So I walk up and Stanley looks over at me and kind of shakes his head and said, "Hart, talk to Rowe, see what he thinks." Hart came up to me and he's like, "Hey, Sergeant Rowe, hey, we found some more 50 cal ammo. I want to take a couple of guys. I think we can get up to that other."
They found some. They boys, they never. It's crazy. They never gave up or never thought they couldn't win. That's what I love about this group of soldiers. They always, it seems like, with the stories that I heard, and I've watched every guy that has a story that was there, and they always had the same attitude. We're gonna take this lady back. We taking it back over, and they did.
Humvee. we can reload that 50 and we can push over to Gallegos. And I told Hart, I'm like, brother, I just got blown off the generator. I can't protect anything to the right of you. We can't set in that north flank security. We just kept kind of going back and forth. And I realized that looking at Hart and listening to Hart, there was nothing I was going to ever say to him that was going to get him to change his mind and not think about taking that Humvee to go get Gallegos. And I just knew that, there was no telling him no. He was going to do it. And he knew what he was getting into. So I told him, hey,
I'll be right back again, guys. I got something other else going on too. I'm having to do both of these. I want to get this in today, though. I am going to skip forward some a little bit, though, because he's getting through most of the fighting now. It's actually 2 hours, 32 minutes, 51 seconds. Right. Yeah, I'll be right back, guys. Hang tight.
tell me your plan once again. What are you thinking? I said, well, I'll take 2 guys, take Faulkner and Griffin. We'll sneak up to the Humvee. We'll reload that 50. I'm going to push on the southern side of the camp. We'll come up next to Gallegos with a moving Humvee. We'll either get them in and load them out, or they can use it for a shield. I told Hart, okay, you'll make it happen. Hart left out the back door, and I knew that was going to be last time I ever seen him.
Man.
But I knew he was.
I come
He
in
knew
at
if there was
a
any
bad
chance
time.
at all.
It was bad. This guy, boy, man, he was something else, wasn't he? He was winning, boy.
Even the slightest one, he was going to risk everything for it. It's one of those things that you just, you can't change the past, but to go in with full determination of nothing more than just trying to help someone. Didn't give a crap about what happened to him.
No.
He just wanted to get Gallegos and those guys out of there.
Sort of in parallel to what you had just done. Right, you're describing a kind of you can call it heroic, you can call it selfless commitment, on the part of Hart. But this is what was going through your mind too, right? And this is what you had done in your first attempt to take that machine.
Yeah.
It was one of those things, like I said, that
loud.
The plan wasn't solid. I knew it. That's the trouble I got into, is I couldn't, even if I had someone else there, you couldn't cover the flanks enough. Well,
sorry, I got caught up on that deal there, but I'll still be right back.
Well enough to make a maneuver like that. And that's what I tried to stress to Hart. But like I said, there was no telling him no. And it was one of those, if there was a chance in hell, I'm going to risk everything just to help, just to do something. And it was at that point, it was getting to the point of, we got to do something. We can't just sit here and keep taking it. You can't just sit here and wait for something to happen. So after said Hart pushed up into position, Gallegos the entire time is screaming at Hart on the radio, "Hey, brother, don't come up here. Don't come up here. You're doing nothing but drawing fire. Just go back." Hart kept pushing, and then the call comes across the radio, "Hey, I've got an RPG pointed right at me." Radio silent. Realize that the enemy is taken over the front gate, pushed all the way into our wire. We were at that point, we owned about a 50-meter circle. Basically our aid station, our tactical operations center, and our first platoon, our platoon's barracks. About the only things we physically controlled at that point. So when Hart came in with that last radio transmission of they got an RPG pointed right at us, we thought all of them were gone up there. So the call went out that we were going to, knowing we had radios exposed and unaccounted for, knowing that we were about to try and coordinate to do something, we switched our frequencies. So if the enemy had a radio, they couldn't listen in to kind of the plan we were going to start up with. At that point, that's when went back into the aid station for the last time to see if Kirk had made it. And got Corville, our medic, when I walked in. I gave him the thumbs up or thumbs down just because you couldn't really hear anything anyways with everything going on, and he gave me the thumbs down, so I knew we'd lost Kirk. Knew that we had lost Hart. Pretty sure we'd lost Hart, and we lost Gallegos and Larson and Mace and Martin and Carter. Wasn't sure about the mortars. Was pretty sure they might still be alive up there, but kind of doubted it also. So I was getting ready to leave the aid station. There was a wounded Afghan army soldier in there. He had a Russian sniper rifle that he was carrying. And at this point, I figured, well, that shoots a much bigger bullet than my M4 does. We're almost out of ammunition anyways, so might as well start grabbing what we can and utilizing it. Grabbed the sniper rifle. At this point, Copus kept calling up that he was getting pinned down pretty hard from a sniper from his backside, because he was facing south into the east and he was taking fire from the north. So I grabbed the rifle, was able to run around the aid station, make it out to his position. He's just up there in the turret. I remember kind of looking up to him. He's hunkered down as low as he can so he can keep firing, but trying to keep his head down so he doesn't take one from the guy behind him. Kind of looked up at him. I'm like, "Hey, we're going to die here, right?" I kind of chuckled at him. He kind of looked at me and I'm like, "Hey, I was like, you're the only gun left in the fight. You've got to hold this." So I started bouncing back and forth from the front side of the Humvee to the back, playing cat and mouse with the shooter behind him. Come to the front.
I bet that's fun, playing cat and mouse with another Peter.
Try to search for him, and I'd fire a few rounds. Try and get his attention. Then I'd get him to try and come out for a bit to try and get him to shoot. Then I'd come on the backside so I could try and pick him up. Kept going back and forth for a couple of times. Finally got him to quiet down and silenced him off. kind of gave the update again to Copus. Hey, you need to hold this position. I'll be back for you. But just hang tight, hang what you got.
What vehicle is he in?
He's in a Humvee right outside of 3rd Platoon's barracks. He had a Mark 19 up there, a fully automatic grenade launcher. And that's, also when he told me, he's like, hey, I don't know how long I can hold it. I'm almost out of ammunition. I realized, they breached the front gate. They pushed all the way up on us. We couldn't even get to the ammo. The guys we still had left there, kind of in that, what we ended up calling the Alamo position, we were all almost out of ammo. So I came back around, was able to make the dash, linked up with Lieutenant Bunderman, Sergeant Hill. Sergeant Hill was the 3rd platoon sergeant. I told him, hey, we got to take this bitch back.
Yeah.
We can't stand here and just keep taking this.
That's when he made that decision. He did. And he found a Russian AK sniper rifle and put that baby to use, buddy.
I told him I'm going to go into the barracks, see who's in there, ask for a group, whoever I can get.
Let's go.
We're going to push up to the ammo supply point. We're going to retake that because if we don't have any bullets left to fight, we're not going to be fighting much longer. So that's critical. We got to get ammo pushed back. So after that, I'm going to push around, recapture the Shura building, and shut the front gate so they can't just keep rolling in on us.
The front gate is on the north side?
Yeah, it's on the north side of the camp. Kind of pointing up they called it the lock, where the river and the road or lines of communication ran. So the main road actually could drive straight into our front gate. Had good covered and concealed routes along our western wall to get up into the front gate area. So I told Bunderman and Lieutenant Bunderman and Sergeant Hill that we'd take the ammo supply point back. We'll take the Shura building back. We'll close the front gate. If we can make it up there, we'll push up eventually to the mortar position and see what we can find on the way.
On the way was Gallegos.
Yeah, the 5 guys we're unaccounted for at that point.
No more radio patch.
Yeah, we'd switch frequencies. Thought they'd all gotten overran. Faulkner, who went up there with Hart, was able to somehow make it back. He was pretty badly wounded, so we tried to talk to him.
I'm sorry I have to call him, talk him now and then, but I get caught up in the store. I ain't heard this one a long time, and I ain't really much to say. He kind of explaining it, I would say. Man, these guys are crap. They done lost communication. The camp's overrun. Ain't a bad way.
About what had conspired or what it kind of looked like up there, but he was kind of in a daze of, one, surviving the blast, and then 2, somehow making that dash all the way back in open terrain. So kind of had this, like I said, just harebrained idea, this plan that freaking counterattack is what we're going to do. Why not? Walked in the barracks and remember kind of just looking around, and I forgot how many guys we had in there, but that was, one of the final holding spots. And a couple of them basically got told just to point their barrels at the door, and if an unfriendly came in unannounced, that's basically where they're just going to stand and fight the last fight. So I walked in there and kind of seen this, and I said, hey, I need some guys, need some volunteers. So we're going to take this bitch back. Have 5 guys stand up.
We go.
Raz, Delaney, Danley, Sergeant Miller, and
Well,
Jones.
boy.
I mean,
Let's
without
roll.
hesitation or without thought.
Them
Didn't even at that point they didn't even know
boys said, let's roll, fellas.
what the plan was, other than we're gonna take this bitch back. So I kind of got them huddled around, and I told them, "Look, we need to
Y'all
go get
quit
more ammo.
jumping in and jumping
That's our
out.
first move.
No
Push
way.
up there, get the ammo supply point back. We'll hold the terrain. Blue platoon is going to try and maneuver a support by fire for us, so we can kind of cover each other's move as we do this. But we need to get the ammo back. So after that, we'll go shut the front gate, and after that, we'll clear up through to see if we can find who we can find and get up to the mortar position. So just to see the just the non-hesitation, not even a doubt in our mind when those guys stood up. Said, "Away, we'll follow you. We'll follow you anywhere." You know, as I reflect back and had some time to think about it, I don't know if I could have stood up that day with everything going on. I don't know if someone running into a room and say, "Hey guys, let's take this bitch back," if I'd be one of those 5 that could stand up and say, "Hey, I'll follow you anywhere." So to have that happen and to see that firsthand, that guys just trusted, just trusted in me to take them somewhere other than waiting for their demise in a barracks. Can't even explain how proud and how honored I am to have those guys. So we pushed out. We were able to recapture the ammo supply point, push the enemy off that position. Jones set up, started pushing ammunition back to the guys. He gets off a couple of rounds, or Danley takes one to his left shoulder. Raz, without missing a beat, he's already got the grenade with the pin pulled and the spoon popped. Just drops it right over the other side of the fence on him. Takes him out. Look over at Danley, and his shoulders blown pretty wide open. Put a pressure dressing on him, trying to stop the bleeding what we can. He can still, walk and talk. So pretty decent amount of pain, and get him patched up, get him stood up, and basically tell him, "Hey brother, you got to make it back to that point." Give him a shove and call him on the radio that they got a wounded coming into the aid station that needs treatment. At that point, I realized that we were kind of losing our momentum. We were able to establish that point there. We were starting to get some pretty decent air coverage coming in with the Apaches, and Jones was helping walk them on. Jones and Raz were walking them on guys they couldn't get direct fired.
Yeah, once air comes on station, things start changing. It goes way down. We've all heard the good gunfight.
But like I said, realized we're starting to lose momentum. The enemy was getting fixated on our position, and I could tell they were trying to keep us pinned down, so we couldn't maneuver. They were trying to maneuver on us.
I remember the chopper pilot's testimony on this when he come on station. When he come over that horizon, his first words were, "Holy shit." I mean, everything was on fire. Everything.
So I called up Lieutenant Bunderman, let him know that I needed to keep moving. We couldn't stay here. We had to keep pushing. We had to get the front gate closed, because if we didn't get that closed, we couldn't keep them out of the wire. So the blue platoon was supposed to set a support by fire machine gun to our south to try and interlock those fires so we could make that maneuver. And they were pinned down on the backside and couldn't put it in position for us. So when I called up Lieutenant Bunnerman to tell him I needed to move, he came back and said, you need to stand by and wait for that gun in there to support you. I came back and I kept telling him we really need to move. We're going to lose momentum. They know what we're doing if we don't recapture the front gate and shut it. And he kept coming back and forth on, just stand by, just wait. So like the jerk of the NCO I was, basically pulled the oldest trick in the book on a lieutenant. I acted like my radio was broke. I couldn't hear him telling me not to go. I told my guys, we're going to leave Jones there. We had another soldier come out to take Danley's spot, Sergeant Scholes. So we're going to leave Jones and Scholes there to watch our backside. And Miller, Delaney, Raz, and myself, we're going to come up, clear the Shura building, and recapture the front gate. The entire time, Lieutenant Bunnerman's calling me on the radio, trying to get a response that I need to stand by. I'm just continuing to ignore him. And I let the guys know, you guys ready for this? We need to make this move. We're going to be exposed in there. Delaney just sweeps on through. We push and clear, make it to the door that accesses the front gate.
Now, were there enemy in there? The Shura building?
They weren't directly inside. They were right outside the front door because they left us a couple of AKs and a nice medium machine gun that we took from them. Because at that point, their 7.62 machine gun they had there, they kind of left as a present for us, was then the biggest gun I had in a fight. Because before that, it was Delaney with this saw that's only firing, 5.56, and we needed a little heavier firepower. So we're able to relieve them of those weapons and got to the gate and was able to put it on lockdown. Called back to Lieutenant Bunderman, let him know, hey, got you back up on comms, but we're here at the front gate. We got it secured. Think he was highly upset and pleased at the same moment, knowing that we were able to pull off the maneuver, but I didn't quite listen to him like I probably should have. Far enough back in the door so you could just look out the doorway without getting shot. Try to keyhole it out. And I don't know how long we were there, or whether it was 15 minutes or 2 hours.
I'm sorry, you're in the Shura building at this point?
At this point, we'd made it to the Shura building. Like I said, I don't know if we were there 15 minutes or 2 hours, but shortly, Bunderman calls me on the radio and says, hey, brother, you won't believe this, but we still got guys alive up there at LRAS 2, where Gallegos was. Said Sergeant Larson and Carter are still alive. Mace is badly wounded, but he's still alive. We're going to bring in an airstrike on our mule if you guys can set a support by fire over on the putting green and the switchbacks. Larson and Carter are going to try and grab Mace, and as we coordinate the airstrike and you're covering fire, they're going to try and bring Mace back to the aid station. Said, yeah, we can make this happen. They bring in the bomber, starts dropping munitions. We launch out the front, set our support by fires, and start talking our machine guns back and forth up on the mountaintops, on the hillsides. Larson and Carter and Mace come down from LRAS 2, make their way along the side of the Shura, and come around the ammo supply point and make it to the aid station. we come back, we withdraw back inside of the building, start setting our defense a little stiffer in there, and a little while later, Larson calls me on the radio, smoked and got done, and then it was back to game on. Just our plates and our Kevlar. They left their weapon, left all their ammunition, left everything behind. They made the dash outside and grabbed Griffin, brought him back in.
Talk to me about why it's so important, critical that you bring back the fallen.
It's one of those. You want everyone to come back home.
Dumb question.
I used to tell my guys, look, guys, we're all going over together. There's soldier back.
So that's why you and Raz and Larson pushed up there to get Griffin.
It was.
There you go. So you'd already pulled Gallegos' body back, I guess.
They, like I said, when Larson came back, Griffin was the only one he knew where he was at. He'd lost contact with Martin. He'd lost contact with Gallegos. To the people they love. You just can't leave. Can't even think about leaving someone behind, no matter what the cost.
Kind of messing up, right?
So that's why you and Raz.
Anyway, that's about most of
Went
it.
back to Lieutenant Bunderman and told him once again to see some of my soldiers there that day, to know
together.
these guys were just doing what they got trained to do. They were just doing a job.
Yeah, well, that's about it, guys. Y'all can watch a lot more. There's a lot on this. Like I said, I don't know what year it was. I don't know if that's like October 3rd, but of 09, 2009. All right, well, appreciate no one for watching, but I'm used to it. There's no view live chat here. I'm here by my lonesome. But anyway, he's a good guy, man, good soldier. Glad he made it through. Hate we lost ones, we lost. Terrible battle. Them boys did good though. They fought. Put in. But yeah. Y'all maybe give me some subs, maybe a like or two. Or something. It's all free. But I will see you guys. Bye.